Good morning. Welcome to the July 8th Finance and Facilities Committee meeting of the Board of School Directors of the School District of Haverford Township. Can we get a flag, please? Yep. We rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't need to call roll for a committee meeting. Ms. Q, it's your meeting.
We're going to start off, as usual, with the construction updates. So we have Ken Matthews here from CBD.
Oops, sorry. Good morning. All right. We'll start out with Linwood, give it a little update. You can see here a couple numbers have just changed briefly. There was one pending change order that is no longer going to be done with the contractor. It's a change order we're going to actually do directly with the district's vendor, CM3. And it should be the last change order of the project. Other than that one pending change order is just one that we still cannot get Stubner to respond to. But it's been sitting there and it's been part of the budget. So over the past year, we've been monitoring the gym HVAC unit. There's been concerns over humidity control. So we've had, I can't tell you how many countless conversations back and forth, reprogramming, all of these things. So anyway, the long story is that from an engineering standpoint, Snyder Hoffman is the engineer. They admitted that the unit probably isn't doing what it should be doing. So that being said, reheat coil needs to be added to control the humidity in the space. We had originally gotten a price, which was what was included in the pending change orders, from JBM Mechanical for $60,000, a little over $60,000. Now we've gotten a quote from CM3 for $47,000, which is obviously much better. We think the price is very fair and reasonable. And with that being said, Snyder Hoffman, under KCBA, has admitted to some fault here, and they are willing to contribute $20,750 to swapping this getting this heat exchanger installed so that the unit really can run properly and it doesn't have to constantly be monitored. It was really on these peak humidity days where it just wasn't keeping up. When the doors are open, you have an event, that's kind of when the problem occurred. So this reheat coil will put the kibosh on that, so to speak, and just won't have to be constantly monitored, and it will automatically do its thing. So that being said, it's basically a net add of a little over $26,000 to the district. We've spoken internally. We feel that was very reasonable of KCBA. That the number they initially came back with was a lot less than that. So we feel they did step up to the table, and looking at the project as a whole, we feel it's very reasonable. Kind of, shake hands and walk away and get this done, and then the gym is controlled. So that was really the big one for Linwood. If anybody had any questions on that?
I just have a question. So if there was, say, this new unit, something goes wrong, is it all on us at that point?
There's a 1-year warranty on the building, which on everything, parts and labor, which that is now passed. So there are still remaining warranties on some of the major equipment in the building, mostly 3 and 5 years on certain compressors and pumps. So if something were to go wrong with this, we would have a 1-year warranty with CM3, the contractor, parts and labor, and then after that it would be on the district at that point.
Okay.
Which is typical of
Sure.
the rest of the building, again, other than major components. Any other questions on that? Okay, then as far as the rest of Linwood, we finally got an answer on the retaining wall fencing. It is the contractor is getting it this morning. He has to put it together, and we're hoping it's on site by the end of next week. So he called at the end of the day. I didn't even get a chance to tell you, JR. So we'll let Jillian and the building know that as well. The signage, we finally got an answer on that. But it gave a huge window of any time in the next 2 to 8 weeks, which I said, can we narrow that down a little bit, please? But so by the end of August, the sign should be replaced and done. And then lastly, there's a very few minor punch list items and some grass that still has to grow, which really will need to wait till September for that to finish up. But that is really it as far as Linwood is concerned. The what? Gym pads. Oh, and I'm sorry, thank you. The gym wall pads were installed. That completed the pads around the entire gym. All right. So moving on to the high school. So phase one, what we did here, the changes, there were $63,000 left of contingency. So we just moved that into the phase two budget at this point because phase one is done. So that was really the only change there. So here's the updated numbers for phase two. So the contingency went from $500,000 to $563,000. Then we have pending change orders, you can see, of $147,800. And so now our current contingency balance is looking to be around $45,000. And then we are using up a number of allowances. Found a lot of little issues when we demoed the interior of the building, walls that were going to fall down that we had to take down. The existing flooring had to be demoed out and infilled in the old bathroom. So a lot of little things like that will be used out of the allowance. That's what it's for. You know, we had man hours and costs in there for that. And now we'll be getting into the parking lot work, which there'll be some additional curb work and sidewalk replacement done. JR had deferred that, knowing that some of that would be done as part of the project. So that being said, there are a couple change orders as well that we're presenting. There was a small change order for $2,388 to put a bonding agent to tile over the glazed block in the hallway. That was not shown on the drawings, and it won't bond to it. It's like the glazed block out here in the hallway. So that is required. Then we had another change for hardware. Needed to be swapped out on doors for $2,946. That was just a miss on the drawings, and that goes in that pile of, you know, errors and omissions we keep track of for the overall project, as we've discussed in the past. And then lastly, we have a change order for Westcott for $3231 to add wiring to the band exterior door because it does need to be monitored by the security system. And if the district decides to upgrade for a card reader there, the wire's there. So those are just the couple of change orders for the high school for this meeting. Any questions on the high school? All right, moving on to Chatham Park. And I'm sorry, for the high school, I mean, everything right now is on schedule. There's not, you know, we have 7 weeks left or so to finish the project. There's no material issues at this point, so knock on wood, everything seems to be moving along just fine.
Curious, the card reader, is that for an exterior door?
It's an exterior door, yes.
Or the lack of a card reader?
Well, so this door, when we went through the security and during design, Dave, it didn't need a card reader necessarily. It's a single door out of the bedroom. It's really for egress.
Okay.
But what was missed is you still need to monitor the door because if somebody props it open,
Sure.
you need that security alarm. So each one of those exterior doors have an alarm that goes off if somebody props a door open for, I think, 20 seconds.
Okay.
That way it forces them to close it for the security of the building.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
So then moving into Chatham Park, and both Coopertown, really, just from a general schedule standpoint, everything is moving along well. Haven't really found many issues to speak of. There are a few things. So for Chatham Park, you can see the contingency balance still is in great shape because there was a significant credit back for work that didn't have to be done. So we're well in great shape there. Don't see any issues. There's some allowances that have been used, but not very much to date. So we do have a couple change orders as far as Chatham is concerned. There was a $40,000 allowance in the general contractor's budget for fencing for the chiller. We're not doing that. We're doing it with the district's vendor direct. So that's going to be $13,530. So the rest of that allowance will be credited back as we close out the project. Then we have Dolan Mechanical. There were some existing hoods that were called out to remain on the drawings, but they don't exist. So that is a miss by the design team. So they need to be ordered, and that's for $15,195. And then there, in similar fashion, there's another existing rooftop hood that was called out that was missed that needs to be ordered roof curb, and a hood. These sit on the roof. They're for the fresh air coming into the building, and that's for $5,663. And then lastly, there were some, the engineer called out to use existing fire dampers. They took them, once we tore everything apart, the fire dampers are in complete shambles. They're no good. They cannot be reused. So we need to order new ones, and that's for $4,492. And everything's, again, moving along well at Chatham so far.
Do the new orders mean that we're going to have to push back finish date, or is the hope that supply?
So most of it will get here. The actual hood itself might be into the fall.
Okay.
But it really doesn't affect anything as far as where we are, because the existing air conditioners are staying in the rooms. So that will bring in fresh air for now, but the hoods, I believe, are 14 weeks. So it's probably October. But they should be a day, 2 days to install at the most. And it's on the roof, so it won't be disrupted to school. So they can just, the second they get them, they can put them up. All right. So moving on to Coopertown, similar fashion financially, contingency balance is in great shape. We had gotten a significant credit back from not having to upgrade the power with Pico to the building. So financially, everything's great there. The allowance dollars spent to date hasn't really changed. And then the yellow on the other side is just, with the approved change order, some of the contracts have changed. So the updated projected total contracts is the $4.1 million. And then we only have one change order for Coopertown. It is for, there was one small area that was actually an old existing hallway that is used space now at Coopertown. So the engineer had missed adding air conditioning into that space. So now to add that is $1,902. So it's just a little bit of ductwork that has to be added in there to take care of that space that was missed. But again, other than that, Coopertown, as far as the mechanical project, they're actually flying along. I think most of the piping's done, most of the units are installed. So then the only thing we're waiting on actually is the roofing. All the material was delivered to the site with the exception of some fasteners that they've been waiting on. They're these coated fasteners, and they've just taken a long time to get. So they're hoping to start by the end of July to be done by the end of August. Right now is what their current schedule is. So we'll continue to monitor that and make sure there's no further delay there. The good news is, even if they were pushed out a little bit, they're up on the roof, they're out of the way. So if they were wrapping some things up, even in early September, it really wouldn't impact school at all. But that is it as far as Coopertown is concerned. And I think that wraps up everything to discuss. If there are any other questions about progress or anything.
So it sounds like we're on schedule, on budget, and the weather's been good.
Yes. Well, the good news is now we're out of we got past the weather, now that the buildings at the high school's fully enclosed and all the work's, inside. The roofer would be the one item if we got torrential rains that could impact them. And the reality is they're going to lose a handful of days in August to thunderstorms. I mean, just the nature of the beast. So, but yeah, that's everything, I think.
Great.
Thank you.
Up next is JR, so he can give us an update on our maintenance and transportation project that started on June 21st.
Yep. Good morning. How are we today? Real quick, everything's going well right now. Got you some pictures of them excavating the back parking lot. The blacktop contractor is moving well. He's about halfway through the lot, getting it prepared. The electrical contractor's got the pipes in the ground for all the light stanchions that are going up. They're continually moving the electrical to a new location in the bus garage. We got all the temporary hooks up for the gas pumps and all that. So everything's going well, barring weather. Right now, we've been good. So just a little quick pictures. We moved the snow blower out of the way with the help of the township. give them a little kudos for helping us out, getting the snow blower out of the way, which will make it easier for them to do the lot. Just they don't have to go around it or dig around it. So everything's going well. The electrical contractor come doing their work. They're moving that right side, the electrical panels there. They're all going to go underneath the canopy. They're getting temporary hookup with the generator, because we all know the generator is 52 weeks from June 21st or whatever the date was, that they started a project. So they'll be back in June to put the new generator in. Nothing we can do about that. But everything's going well. The only thing we found with the project is there was a light post that we missed. There's going to be a $7,150 change order that we need to get approved so we can put a new light there, and it's going to be in the back corner, which lights up all the maintenance trucks that park back there. So that's the only change order I have for the project. I won't say anything. I'm just going to keep it that way.
I just missed how much you said it was.
$7,150. So they're going to be starting installing the bases for the light poles on Monday. So and they're shooting for a July 25th to start striping the parking lot. That's what the goal is right now, and then the fencing will happen after July 25th. So, knock on wood, everything's going well. We did come across something didn't think of, be honest with you, the gas pumps. I took a picture of this gas pump. We don't know how old it is. We're assuming 20 plus years old. So we're not looking to, I just want to put it in your head in 3 months I'm going to come back. We're going to look to go to bid in 3 months to replace the gas pumps. Approximate price, $30,000 to $40,000 to replace the gas and the diesel pumps, just the pumps. We're looking to go to bid like in November so that we can get them ordered by December. And the reason why we're not doing it now is because you're looking at 7 months to get the pumps. So why do it now? The pumps are still running. They're just old. And since everything else in the place is going to be new, we might as well upgrade the pumps at the same time. So we'll shoot for November to go out to bid and then put it on next year's capital project list. But we can at least get them ordered in December. And that's it. Besides that, everything's going well. If you're driving around the district, please stop and look at some of the schools. There is a lot of work going on right now. And we are putting in the sidewalk at Chatham Park.
Oh,
Up top.
all right.
Actually, I talked to Jabari, and Jabari was like, yeah, it is a good idea. And it is a good idea. So that is getting done actually right now. And that's it.
Oh, wow, okay.
All right. Any questions?
Good news. That's great.
Thank you for chatting, by the way.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
So are all the school buses parked in your driveway?
No, they're actually behind Linwood.
Where are they?
All behind Linwood.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, believe me, I can't wait to get them back. It's working.
And there's no reason for us to be concerned about the weight of those buses on.
Oh, no.
recently paved
No, because they're just sitting.
Linwood that was
Yeah.
not designed.
Yeah, they're not driving up and back constantly. They're just sitting there. So, yeah, and they'll be moved out in the next month. All right.
I just had a question. It's
Sure.
not about, it's a project, but not one of these. You had mentioned at the high school, the track, you were going to be doing an automated facilities, was going to be doing
Yes.
like, no. Do you have an estimated time on that?
I'm waiting on we have all the electric in. We're waiting on the contractor to get all the parts together. And once again, it's a supply chain problem. So as soon as the parts come in, they're going to jump on it. I'm hoping we'll get the parts in by August, but no guarantees.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item that's on the agenda is time for you to have a discussion about the proposal to install the solar panels over at Linwood Elementary. The goal of having this item on the agenda is for you to determine today, are you ready to make a recommendation to the full board? Do you want more time? Is there more information? From our perspective, our being the administrative perspective, we believe the questions that you have asked of us, that we've provided answers, not necessarily from a variety of sources, but we believe that all of the questions that the board has asked have been answered. With respect to things that I want to point out, you're not hearing a solid administrative recommendation, primarily because if you look at it in terms of our business office, the focus of our business office is always going to be what is fiscally responsible. What money are we spending? What money are we spending in total? And how does that impact the budget? So a project like this, you're not going to have a business manager nowhere, not just here. You're not going to have a business manager coming to you and saying, this is a great project for us to do because we're going to save all of this money. So if that's the answer that you think some of our board colleagues are waiting to hear, that wouldn't be the reason to engage in the project. The other question that people have asked is about the curriculum. Would something like this enhance the curriculum? And, anything that we can add in enhances the curriculum. We are not saying, please install solar panels so that we can do a better job teaching about renewable energy. Particularly at the elementary level, when we look at standards, as I think was answered in one of the questions, renewable energy is one part of one unit in the fourth grade curriculum. So it is being taught, but we're not going to say embark on this project for that reason. The reason, if you look at it, we do have a responsibility to look at the finances. As we've talked a number of times, it's the taxpayers' money that's being spent. So you want to be mindful of that moving forward. But you might also say, well, the taxpayers also have an expectation that we will look at our use of resources and how can we better improve those resources. And that's why this really is a discussion that needs to be held. It's a perfect example of committee work, a discussion that needs to be held within the committee, any information that we can give to you, but then at some point in time, you're either deciding, we're not moving forward with this, we want to look at this more thoroughly, or we're going to bring a recommendation to the board. But the recommendation would be the recommendation of the Finance and Facilities Committee. It would not stand alone as the superintendent is recommending or the business manager is recommending. So it's been a while since we first started talking about this, so I just thought it might be helpful to contextualize it in that way.
I have a couple items that I'd just like to mention. One is that we are embarking on a district-wide feasibility study of facilities, and this certainly could be incorporated into that instead of just looking at this as a Linwood issue. That part of that study would look at alternative energy throughout the district. We've also been made aware just this week that the Pennsylvania School Boards Association apparently has a free service for energy consulting for school districts, and so we're going to look into what they might be able to provide for us, and the price is certainly good. The other piece is that we're still waiting for clarification of a federal program that ostensibly provides grants for school-related energy-saving projects. So those things are all in the mix.
And I understand and appreciate some of those things. It seems that this, because Bridget Wiederman, and she's not here today, obviously, she's still out, but she sent over this spreadsheet that was, I thought, very, very helpful, that really laid things out. and really looking at, she had several estimates, one very conservative and one less conservative estimate of what the cost potentially would be here. And I guess the things that caught my attention were initially solar might cost a little bit more per year, about $12,000, which is about 0.01% of our annual budget, something along those lines. But then would be cost neutral in the conservative estimate around 25 years or so. In less conservative estimate, it'd be cost beneficial or cost neutral almost immediately. I mean, a couple years maybe going into the whole thing, especially if we are selling the SREX and some of those things. Bottom line, what it looks like is that this is not, I don't think, a major budgetary issue based on what I'm looking at here, based on that spreadsheet. So while I do believe we should include solar in the facilities study and obviously look at federal programs and everything else, this to me seems like a bird in hand. And it seems like an opportunity that, doesn't necessarily come around every year. So I think it's a secret that everybody knows my opinions on solar, but yeah, I mean, I think I'm ready to make a recommendation that we pursue this. I think that I think it makes sense from. I think the issue is less financial than what I think we were worried about earlier. And look, it's something. This is something that will at least play a small role in helping keep the planet habitable for our grandkids. So, that's my thoughts on the matter.
Other folks?
Go ahead.
The spreadsheet is really helpful because that was some of the, I was just trying to figure out the numbers and what are we looking at here? Because I agree, like, it's not all about budget, but still we have to be fiscally responsible. And so looking at the annual net cost, depending on whether or not we own the SREX, $7,000 a year would be the additional cost for a few years. It seems like the big cost would be in year 7 of around $200,000 to buy out the solar panels, but that's something we can certainly plan for in our capital planning, and we have money that we could set aside for 7 years from now, right?
I think that's not required. And I believe that's one thing that I know a lot of people had concerns about. And I'm sorry, I mean cut you off, Laura.
It's helpful. That's helpful. Go ahead.
But yeah, no. I mean, one thing that I think should be pointed out is that we don't need to purchase them in year 7. Year 7, I believe, is the point at which it would be most long-term financially beneficial. Exactly. But your point's well taken. I should mention that earlier. I didn't mean to.
No, and that's helpful.
Not trying to mansplain over you.
Yeah, and it seems like that really is the biggest cost, and that's in year 7. So that's certainly something we can budget for. And then after that, it seems like once we own it, then there's a net savings every year, and so then we start to recoup some of those costs. So that seems. And then if we own the SREX, the numbers are even more favorable. Like the first year potential additional cost over what we're currently doing would be like $2,000. I don't think that's an outrageous amount of money to have clean energy for our building. To your point, Larry, I think that we definitely need to include all of our buildings in our upcoming audit, and I think the energy audit sounds great. My concern is if we wait for that, it could be a year before we get a report back, and then, by the time we implement something, it's 2 years down the road, whereas this, we could just make a decision soon and get started and, and kind of see how it goes too. I think that's the other thing. It's a relatively small project, and so like a kind of a test of how things are going to go and is this going to work for us in our district at relatively low cost initially. So I think that's kind of a nice thing. But yeah, I mean, having these numbers, I think for me was really helpful, because if we were looking at something that was going to cost $5 million right up front, like, whoa, pump the brakes. But, you know, $2,000 doesn't seem like leaps and bounds, you know. So, so yeah, I mean, I think I would be comfortable moving forward, but with the note that this would just be the first phase, and then we would look into lots of these other options, programs, grants, and things like that, and consider doing a district-wide energy audit. So I think that's a really good idea for the future.
I'm glad you brought up the idea of the toe dip too. Is this will help? I mean, and actually, I believe the insurance is not, and the maintenance is not a responsibility for the first, as long as until we own them. So we'll have many years of kind of learning the ropes, if you will. So that's, yeah. So I think, and that's, I think, a benefit over installing them right away and saying, okay, JR, now it's up to you you know, these things running. This will be a nice test for at least a couple years, where we'll have somebody to come in and say, okay, here's where the wiring goes. Here's where the, you know, here's some of the issues we're finding. So I think it's a great point. I would have concerns if we were just installing this and saying, it's all ours now. Let's see how it goes. So yeah.
Kim?
So for me, I just echo all the things you just said, Dr. Crispin, is that it's important to install these on new roofs, and currently we have a new roof. My fear is if we wait for the evaluation and all of this, that it's going to push us even further out from having a new roof. And so for me, all the things that you're just echoing it again, like, this gives us a chance to try this out, see how it works on one building, while also asking for an evaluation of all of our buildings. Just seems to make good logical sense for me. This is our opportunity to try it. It's an opportunity to try it and not have to invest all the money up front. And then we don't have to decide when we're going to purchase them, or if we ever will purchase. So like, that allows us to have a few years to wait, see how this goes. How does it fit into our budget? How is it going for the curriculum? How's it going? What is actually, right now we only have an estimate in the sense of how good the solar return will be. My assumption is going to be really good, because Linwood is just in the sun. So my assumption is this is a really good building for us to try it out. But it also gives us a few years to see what is the benefit and how is the benefit going, and then apply it to all of the other. Those are great resources. I'm thrilled that there's a possibility for all of those things to then look at a district-wide plan. But for me, it makes so much sense to move forward on this project so that we can kind of see how it goes and really be planning for how to be more energy efficient throughout our district.
Danielle? Yeah.
No, I have to say Bridget's numbers, I looked at them a little bit last night, were very helpful, because my concern was always financially for the district, because even though Martha did a tremendous job keeping under the taxes under the amount that she was allowed to, it's still a tax increase, and our taxes are high. And I remember hearing that when I would go door to door with some older citizens in the township. So I'm always very conscious, and Mrs. Minji made me very conscious of that too. You know, there's people that do struggle to make the taxes, and even though our rates kept them below what we could, it's still real money, and now more than ever. You know, people have a lot of financial concerns now, but the numbers, that's the numbers that are there are really nothing. So it does seem like this is a great way just to try it out with Linwood. And I'm always a cautious person, so I would never want to do something all throughout the district. I think it's a great idea to try it out with Linwood, see how it goes, and see what the problems are. And I would just hope that if we do go forward with this, that we make it very clear to the public, and maybe not Bridget's big spreadsheet, which we all looked at, but just so people know that we're not just throwing away that it's such a small percentage of it won't really affect them, and that way they know we're not just, spending their money on pet projects. So, but I think it's a great idea, and I think just starting with Linwood makes the most sense to me personally.
One of the other areas that I guess is still open is legal opinion from our solicitor in terms of whether this needs to be a bid process. Do you have any more information that you might be able to provide in that regard? Or
So, best practice is that it is a bid project. This is different for a public school. So that's the response is best practice, and it might be helpful for Bridget to have a conversation directly with the solicitor and ask any additional questions. Because that's technically legal advice, so discussing it publicly is not. She can have that conversation, but that's the answer that you would get publicly. Best practice, yes, it is. That's what should be done. The co-op makes it a little bit different.
I do have a question about that, actually. Is this different from, because I believe, and this is before I got on the board, I guess, but we did years ago, I think it was 2019 it was, before pre-COVID, we changed our energy provider, I guess, and we actually purchased clean energy from an energy provider. I think it was like maybe a little more, like maybe like $10,000 a year more, something along those lines. Larry, you probably know. You I think we're the only one here on the board at the time, actually. But is this different from? Is it different from that? Okay.
Our energy is purchased through the consortium at the IU, and
Okay.
it is bid out.
Okay,
do
it
go
is bid
through a
out.
bid process to come up with the best prices for our energy purchases. So,
Okay.
One other thing I want to add, given the current volatility with energy rates, I know all of this is a forecast, but gas prices, electric prices, everything has been so volatile. Just from a economic standpoint, I actually think that there's a really big value in locking in some rates now that seem pretty reasonable. So just, forecasting for the future, given all this volatility, I like the idea of going with this just as a power purchase agreement, just because it's going to lock in some pretty low rates overall. And I think there's some benefit to that stability. Is that right? Am I thinking that through correctly?
I mean, energy rates are volatile right now.
Yeah.
As far as locking them in, I mean, we currently have locked in rates with our energy right now, with the
Right.
agreement that
Right.
Dave was referring to.
Right, okay. But that's not like a long-term rate, that's just,
I honestly don't know if it expires at the end of this year or at the end of next year. I'd have to go look it up.
It does expire though at some point, and we'll have to it'll be renegotiated then. So
Yeah, well, it'll go back through a consortium process.
yeah, sure.
okay.
Any other comments?
Thank you for getting all of our questions answered. We asked a lot of questions, so thanks. I know that was a lot of information.
That was a team
It was
effort.
really helpful, I think, because this is new for all of us. So it was helpful to get all of that information kind of compiled into one place. So thank you.
So we'll seek an opinion, we'll have Bridget reach out to,
Yeah, I think what we can do, Bridget and you together, as board leadership, whatever works best for the two of you, can speak directly with the solicitor, and that way you're getting legal advice, and then you can, let me know if you want that on, if the question is answered satisfactorily, do you want it on the agenda for, it would read that we would move forward with the proposal for the co-op, and board members can vote, either at the next meeting or whenever that question is.
So the next meeting is next week,
Thursday.
right? So is that a possibility to have a meeting with the solicitor before that so that it could move forward for next meeting?
It usually is, yeah,
Yeah.
should be.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you don't usually wait many days if you let them know you.
Okay.
Great.
And I just wasn't sure with Larry and Bridget's schedules too, like if it could
That's
happen.
it. I
Yeah.
was understanding.
But no, I would love to see it on the next board meeting so that we can move forward. Again, because I also think it's helpful to move forward with this in the summer if possible, so I do think that there's some benefit in having it on next week's meeting.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Martha?
That was it.
And we have public,
Opportunity for public comment.
no one has signed up in advance?
Hi, Joy Baxter, Sue Ellen Drive. As you know, I'm a member of the co-op. I just want to respond to a couple things. First, the school district does have a base lock-in rate for their electricity, but there is a line item called market changes. And so whenever the market goes up, that number goes up. So the Constellation has a fail-safe that if they're not going to lose a lot of money. They're passing that on to the school district. So market volatility, we're carrying that. So our base rate's locked in, but not that extra market changes or market charges. So it's not exactly a fixed rate. And I can give you the school district's electricity bills for that. As far as the federal grant for the energy efficiency of schools, that is a fair amount of money. And I actually was going, I put out feelers to a bunch of solar developers for schools and stuff like that, saying, should we put input into this to the whoever was doing the grant? I got a resounding no, because the amount of money that is there is so little compared to the amount that's going to be spent and the priorities for energy efficiency, which should absolutely come first. That's why, that's why Linwood has already gone through that energy efficiency work, which is a great candidate for solar. There are other monies that might come up. The co-op will absolutely try to get the best deal for the district. One of them is the Reggie money that is just starting to flow in, and there is talk that some of the solar programs that used to happen in Pennsylvania that basically are still on the books but don't have funding might come back up. So there's always the possibility. Also, a couple things grandfather out this year. The 26% tax credit that we're going to be utilizing to get the tax benefits. Next year will be 22%. And accelerated depreciation of 100%, and the first year is going to be going down. So waiting unless Congress acts will actually cost the district money. That's it.
Okay, any other comments? I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I think we need one. But yeah, move.
So moved.
I don't know if we need one, but
Thanks, everybody.
Here.